value is created by doing. It's easy to forget this. A lot of stuff feels like work. Commenting online, tweeting, reading about other companies, grabbing coffee, etc. This is not actually work. And if you count that as work, think really hard about the value you're creating in your job. These activities can be worthwhile in small doses. It's important to network and meet interesting people to stay in the flow of ideas. But they are not by themselves how new wealth gets created. Value gets created when a company does things like build apps and sell them to customers. As a rough guideline, it's good to stay in roles where you're close to the doing. Of course, you have to do the right things. Writing software no one wants does not create value. That's called a class project. So it's critical to figure out the right thing to work on, and strategy is far more valuable than a lot of companies that successfully pivoted would have you believe. But strategy alone has no value. Value gets captured by execution. It's easier to sit around and talk about building a startup than it is to actually start a startup. And it's fun to talk about. But over time, the difference between fun and fulfilling becomes clear. Doing things is really hard. It's why you can generally tell people what you're working on without non-disclosure agreements. And at the end of the day, most patents never matter. The value and the difficulty comes from execution. There are good tricks for keeping yourself honest here. When I was running a company, I used to make a list of everything I got done at the end of the day. It was remarkable how I could feel like I had a really busy day and realize that night that I got nothing done. Similarly, I could have a day that felt only somewhat busy, but accomplish 3 or 4 major things. It's better to do the mistake of overdoing on the work that matters. And blowing off all the rest. You build what you measure. Let me repeat that, you build what you measure. If you measure your productivity by the number of meetings you have in a day, you will have a lot of meetings. If you measure yourself by revenue growth or number of investments closed or something like that, you will probably have fewer meetings. Another example of not quite work is every night in San Francisco, there are dinner parties where people get together and talk about the future. It's always fun and usually not very contentious. Most people agree we need to go to space, for example. But at the end of it, everyone goes home and works on something else. If you believe that going to space is the most important project for humanity, then work on it. If you can't figure out how to raise hundreds of millions of dollars, go work for SpaceX. Joining a great company is a much better plan than starting a mediocre one. If enterprise software is what you really love, then work on that. In summary, consider how you measure your productivity and if it has enough of doing, and whether you are doing the right things.